Started.
Yeah,
Good morning. This is Sharon Colvin. This is Teen Services 101, week 4. We're going to be talking about collaboration and outreach. And let's see if I can get the slide to advance. Here we go. So let's start with the toughest one, the schools. The toughest one in my opinion, but in some respects the most important. So let's talk a little bit about schools. How many of you guys have good connections with your schools, either elementary, middle school, high school, homeschool, parochial?
I'm trying. I just feel like if I just keep trying, eventually I'll get somewhere.
I like that. Yes. And Sarah says, yes, it took her a long time. And I think that's great, because that's the advice I'm going to give you. School relationships are very difficult. Part of it has to do with the fact that they don't really understand what we do. Part of it is that they're overworked and they are slammed with things like testing and standards, and it can be very overwhelming. And part of it has to do with the turnover. And so you might have, like, the magic that happens. So I always used to get jealous with people who were like, I have this great relationship with the school. Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret is that usually when that happens, it's because some magic happened. Like those two people got hired at the same time, or those two people just magically get along, or they hired a new person who suddenly, used to work at the library or whatever. So it can be really, really tricky. So Thad is saying the high school is difficult. His middle school is right next door, which, we're all jealous of you there. But even having a school next door can be hard. So here is what I'm going to tell you. I am on the executive board of the School Library Association, and I will tell you that the school librarians in the state really, really do want to work with us. They do have very different job expectations, and they do have a lot of standards to deal with. A lot of their jobs are being turned into more technology-centered jobs, which can be hard. And there is a lot of turnover, and a lot of them are paraprofessionals who are just overworked, just like us. So that's a good place to start. But that might not be the best place. Library media specialists, their titles change. Their job descriptions are different all over the place, but it's a good place to start. Go over and introduce yourself, see what kind of collection they have, see what kind of support they have. Is the library being used as, a place for the quote bad kids? Is it a place for study hall? Are the kids using the collection at all? Are there computers? Is there a place where you can advertise some stuff? Or is it, a sad, sad place that no one goes to? I used to work in a town with a middle school with a library that was full of outdated books. And basically the only thing that the library was used for is to hold kids who had gotten in trouble. And so kids that had gotten kicked out of class, or kids that they didn't know what to do with, or kids with behavior problems all ended up in the library. It is sad. And so they kept losing librarians, of course, because who wants to work in a job like that? And so they didn't have they had a really high turnover for the professional staff, and it just made this space really sad. And so I made friends with the person who was working over there, and it was rocky because of course she had to she had to answer to her principal, who didn't want her to weed and didn't want her to change, and she felt like a babysitter. So I'm not telling you this because I want you to feel bad for me or for anyone, but you never know what kind of situation they're handling. So don't feel bad if the first couple of times you try to contact people or you show up there, then it's not you. There could be a lot of things in play. Wendy, my kid would have turned into a troublemaker so he could go to the library. See, that's awesome. Yeah, in my school, when I was a kid, I think I would have been the same way. But not all libraries are great. well-stocked places. So it depends. It really depends on your school. And some of them aren't that comfortable. And sometimes you can take advantage of that, because if your library is more comfortable or has more stuff than the school library, then you can advertise yourself that way. If their library is fabulous and, state of the art, comfortable, tons of stuff going on, all the best new books, then you have a different animal entirely. But, so you can make the best of each one. So here are some of the things I've learned over the years. Sometimes school librarians are good contacts, sometimes they're not. Sometimes school librarians don't have any authority to make connections or partnerships with outside organizations, and they may not even know, or they may not say that. So if you get to a dead end, or if you feel like it's not going anywhere, you're not hearing anything, you might want to try another avenue. So some of the ways that you can do this is by going through directly to the teachers. The teachers who are going to have the most obvious connection with the library are the English teachers. They are going to be the ones who are dealing with summer reading assignments. They may even need some support from you in terms of resources. They might be doing research projects and might need some bibliographic instruction. Same thing with the social studies teachers. They should be using the library, whether it's the school library or your library. And so you might be able to squeeze in there and offer some help, bibliographic instruction, some, instructional sheets, information. You might be able to bring some books over, things like that. The art teachers also love the library, because if you have space to do displays, they might want to show off some of the work their kids have been doing. So one of the best pieces of advice I ever got when working with the schools is don't go to the teachers empty-handed. Go to them with an idea or a product already, because if you go to them and say, what can I do for you, it might be too much. They have so much going on that they might not be able to give you an answer. So instead, bring them something that might be helpful, like bring them a book list, or bring them a Pathfinder, or offer to teach a bibliographic course, or say, I have space to display your art, like Wendy's saying, yeah, you have art on display. Do you want to have the next slot? We'd love to have an annual show here. What do you think? I hear you guys are doing great music work, whatever. What would you guys think about coming to the library? Like, bring them something concrete when you first start. And if they shoot you down, that's totally fine. Just be like, hey, that's cool. What can I do for you instead? But if you go to them with kind of like an empty, it's kind of like when you have a family tragedy and people come up to you and say, what can I do for you? And you're like, I have no idea. But if they bring you food, or if they offer to go grocery shopping or take care of your kids or whatever, that's fabulous. So it's the same kind of thing. They're in crisis mode a lot in the schools. So think of them that way. You have to be very gentle and bring them things that might be helpful to them. And they might be willing to help you out, like bring them some flyers, bring them some stuff like old, if you have books that have been donated, ask them if they want them, things like that. Nicole says, one idea, when I go there, I ask to reshelve books. Sometimes it takes me 5 minutes, but I know how much she appreciates it. That's a really good idea. Yeah. When you go and visit, see if you can help. Is there something you can do that's really fast? Or take a look and be like, hey, I noticed your kids really like, Captain Underpants or whatever. I just got a donation. Do you want it? Or offer to let them come to your book sale early and get, the premium choice of the books. We used to do that in one of my old libraries. We'd have the teachers, we'd give them like a preview day, and they'd be able to come to the book sale ahead of everyone else and take as many books as they wanted. And they loved it because they could get, really awesome books for their collections, and they were dirt cheap. And they got to see them before anyone else. Another avenue to try are the literacy specialists and the special education specialists. Not all schools have great programs, but if they do, that's definitely an avenue. Sarah is also the principal. Yes. In my experience, principals are usually not the most receptive, but I haven't tried the principals here in Vermont, so take that with a grain of salt. They like baked goods. Oh, see, I didn't know that. I'll start baking. I have a really good scone recipe. Um, so literacy specialists and special ed specialists, they have kids who could need specific services from you. They are going to have specific stuff. So just go and talk to them and see what kinds of things they're dealing with. Do they need more audio books? Do they need large print books? Do they need help getting resources? Are they having trouble getting, helping kids in their coursework? What can you do for them? Can you come in and maybe show the kids some things that you can do in the library? Sometimes these kids, especially who are getting special services, are a little nervous about coming to the library because maybe they feel like they're not smart enough or they don't read well enough to go. And you can break down that barrier. You can go in and be like, I'm cool. I want you to come. I want you to come and, build brush bots with us. You don't have to be a good reader. Or here are some really awesome high-low books or magazines that you can read or graphic novels. Come. These are perfect. So Thad has a question for you guys. Are you focusing on high school, middle school, or both? What do you guys? Both. Mary's saying both.
Yeah. I'm doing all.
Right. A lot of you guys do it all. I think it's all both. I think most people are saying both. Sometimes one's more receptive than the other. In my opinion, most of you guys do all of it. And if that's the case, reach out as many feelers as you can, as many places as you can. And I think once you get into high school, it can be a little tricky because the kids get so busy. So sometimes it's easier to catch them when they're younger. Also, middle school kids, they tend to be easier to corral. Like you might be able to get them in an assembly or in a library time where you can talk to them all in a group, whereas high school, it can be difficult. Wendy's pointing out that they're ascending school, so it's difficult once they go off to high school. A lot of libraries in Vermont are in the same boat as you, Wendy. A lot of libraries or towns have lost their high schools or lost their middle schools, and so there is a little bit of a gap. One of the ways, and this is not easy, but one of the ways that you can help bridge that gap is to partner with the libraries, the public libraries that are in the towns where they're off in high school. And it could be as simple as just connecting and being like, yeah, I had this group of kids when they're in middle school, they're going off to high school. This is what they're really interested in. They might really like to hear about that. Or it could be something that you do collaboratively. It really depends on how far away they are. I know some towns are really suffering, or not suffering so much as getting confused about their populations because they're losing kids to out-of-town schools, which is frustrating. But you know what? The other thing is, if you are losing kids, remember to take that into consideration when writing up your proposals and when you wrote up your scope. That was one of the things I wanted you to think about. And the reason for that is you need to give yourself a break. If there are no high school kids in your town because they go off to high school in the next town over or 20 miles away, then you can't possibly have them as active as the little kids. It's just not possible. I think it's important for you to relieve yourself of that duty. You can only do so much, and if the kids are not physically there, then you need to give yourself a little bit of a break. One of the things about public librarians is we have very high standards for ourselves. So just make sure to breathe through it and think, okay, those kids are out there. I can't get them, and that's okay. So you got to deal with the kids you have in front of you, and that might mean skewing your age group a little bit. Sometimes you still have a few stragglers, maybe some homeschool kids, maybe some parochial school kids, who knows, or kids maybe when they get their driver's license might want to volunteer, but it really, really depends on the situation. So go easy on yourselves. All right, so schools, definitely important. But let's start talking a little bit more outside the box. The community. Now, I started brainstorming based on some of the things you guys have been telling me about some of your partnerships, the recreation department is a huge partner for a lot of you. I know there's a teen center in some towns, homeschool groups. Sometimes they can present their own challenges, but they are an important part of your community. Scouts can be really great part of your community, whether it's something where they come in and get a tour of the library, or work on something with you to get a patch, or maybe they are just a group of friends and they just want to be part of your program. Then you can kind of lure them in, lure in a couple of them, and pretty soon you have 10 kids, and that's phenomenal. Local bookstores are really important. A lot of times they bring in authors, and if you can kind of either help market that or maybe take a group of kids over to meet somebody. I know Bob Shea was in Middlebury last night actually, and so they were advertising it through the library and having the kids come and visit. You know, it's not a library program, but it still makes you look good and it's cool and the kids will love it. I know a bunch of you guys have talked about farmers markets, and I know some libraries have tables at farmers markets. I know from my farmers market, Kellogg Hubbard often has a table, which is pretty cool, because it's just nice to have presence there, even if you aren't doing anything fabulous or sparkly. It doesn't have to be all that. Senior centers are a really great place to partner, either for like a community service project, or sometimes you can do some sort of program with them, whether whether the teens help them or bring the seniors to the library to help them learn technology skills, or do some sort of writing program together. Sometimes it's fun to do things intergenerationally. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it's always worth trying. Local colleges is one thing I have personally never done, but I know some of you guys are thinking about this. Local colleges, there are a lot of colleges around here, and I think it's worth thinking about whether or not you have a school that might like to partner with you. So your kids, especially your high school kids, are thinking about college, and so you might bring in like an admissions counselor. Financial aid is a really big one right now. I'm part of the pre-K to 16 council through the State House, and one of the things we talk a lot about is the fact that the FAFSA is really hard to fill out. And for first generation college students, some kids don't fill it out because they don't even know it's there. So it can be hard. So even just bringing someone in from financial aid to talk to the kids or talk to the parents could be something really big. Let's see, who's this? Oops, sorry. Mary said, we tried using local college for tutor help, mixed success. Yeah, that can be hard. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Tutoring is kind of an odd beast. I haven't had a lot of success with tutoring programs, but some towns have. Some towns have awesome programs, especially for technology. I personally have never gotten one off the ground, but maybe it's just the stars have to align. I'm not sure. What else have people tried? What else are you guys interested in trying? Working with the community, or what do you have in town that's really awesome that you might like to do? Think about the resources in your town. Job fair, absolutely. Ooh, that's a really good idea. I actually put together a volunteer fair one time for my teens because the job market was terrible, and so I put together a volunteer fair. And it was so fun. I ran it kind of like a craft fair where people just signed up for tables, and it turned into like this, I don't know, this block party where everyone came and like they were all hugging each other, and I haven't seen you in forever. And the teens and adults came down and got to hear about really cool volunteer opportunities. So yeah, those kinds of fairs can be really, really fun. Highly recommend. And if you can coordinate with another organization in town, if you don't have the space, or if you want to do it town-wide and maybe it's library sponsored, it doesn't have to cost a ton, but you might want to partner with someone to get some more space and more visibility. Mary says the best thing we did was have the teens raid the garden and cook with the seniors. Oh, that's so cute. I know you guys had a really awesome garden this summer. I loved the pictures. But I love that idea of having the teens cook with the seniors because you can learn a lot that way. Participating in town hall for a Christmas event, that's really fun.
Um, I wonder if you could get representatives, it seems like there's a really big growing gap year possibilities for kids, different ways kids can spend that gap year if they choose to have one. And a lot of them are really experientially educational.
Sure.
So I'm wondering if you could get people to come and be a part of a presentation for that.
I really like that idea. I like that a lot. You'd have to dig around and see who you could find. But I bet, especially in these little communities, everyone knows each other. I bet that people are doing some really cool stuff.
Right. And I think that unless you have done some research, you don't know all the options that are out there. And there are a lot.
Yeah, and the statistics right now on college graduation rates are terrible. So I wonder if the gap year isn't a really good tool for some of these kids who aren't ready for college.
Right.
Yeah.
An alternative to like AmeriCorps or
yeah.
something like that.
I love that idea. That's really awesome. All right, Paige says, sometimes I feel overwhelmed by the amount of resources. Brattleboro has a ton of nonprofits and programs. Everything I try to do feels like duplicating services. That's a really good point, Paige. And I will tell you that there's a lot of duplication of services everywhere. One of the things you have to think about is who's coming to your library, and sometimes you have to think about what the people who are there, what would be better for them to get there in the building. Transportation is a huge issue. So let's say there was a job fair that was in town hall or something, and it's not something that the kids could get to, but they come to the library every day. Then maybe what you need to do is put something together for the kids who come to the library already so that they can more easily, more regularly get to that program. Sometimes it's a matter of just talking to some of these nonprofits and programs and either advertising with them or talking to them about, hey, I see you guys are doing this awesome program. What do you guys think about doing a reception at the library? Or what would you think about coming and talking it up here at the library to my kids? So I totally understand. I don't think there's a lot of harm in doing duplicate services, especially if they're important. But I do understand sometimes it could be hard to justify. So try to think about what your kids in the library need. And if the library is the best place for them to come, then maybe some of those services need to be brought to them. And if you think about it that way, then that could help. On the other hand, you could be acting as like a conduit for referral. So you could just be putting together information and telling them about everything that's going out in the community. And there's nothing that says that you can't help advertise for these things. Like, hey, there's a volunteer fair going on, you should go. Or, there's something going on at town hall, you should really go. There's nothing that says you can't advertise for that stuff, especially you guys are part of the town. So you can, and I think they'd appreciate that. But you might be able to elbow your way in and be like, hey, let's do an opening ceremony at the library. Or maybe not. It depends. Sarah, multi-generational book group, Vermont Reads, definitely. I've heard mixed stories about this kind of program. I've had people who talked about multi-generational writing groups. And one of the things that can happen, and I'm just cautioning you because it can happen pretty frequently. People drop out of these kinds of groups, and you could end up with a really awkward situation where you have like 4 adult men and 1 12-year-old, which could be a little strange. Or you could end up with 1 adult and 4 16-year-olds, and that can be a little difficult to manage. But if you can get it off the ground, it's awesome. Really, really awesome. Helena says they do a holiday gift making workshop where the kids come in and make crafts and gifts, and we have a group of teens that come and help. That's phenomenal. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The food shelf in town to buy on teens, definitely. So actually, let's move forward really quickly. Community service is a program, since you guys are all interested, especially with the holidays coming up. This is one of those ways I think teens are tricky. Sometimes it's hard to get them to come in to do fun things, but they'll come in to volunteer, and this is one way that you can combine the two. So you could do a can drive and then have them deliver stuff to the food shelf. You can do something where you knit scarves, like teach them how to knit, and maybe they do scarves or mittens for charity. I've seen scarf trees where people come and donate things and decorate the trees in the library with scarves and hats and mittens, and then everything gets donated. Maybe you do something where you collect blankets and supplies for the local animal shelter, and the kids could build the collection boxes and put together signs and collect things and then bring them over to the animal shelter. Some of the simpler things, you can make cards for residents of the senior center, or if there's a hospital nearby, children's hospitals really love that kind of thing. You can make garlands, you could make paper chains, things to help them decorate when it gets cold and dark outside. You can make care packages for the troops. I recently saw something where you can make care packages for the Army dogs who are overseas. And I have to get you that information. I saw it and I was so excited. So the dogs that are working overseas with the Army, you can put together little care packages for them, which I just think teens would love. I know, right? It's totally up your alley, Sasha. So like they could make something and it's something they could really bring it home to them. And then, I mean, it would have a little bit of a cost to it, obviously, because shipping that stuff is expensive. If you keep it local, it would be less expensive. You could teach them to make ornaments, and they could make decorations. You could do things where they could make ornaments and give them out to the businesses in town, or you could make ornaments for the hospital, for the nursing homes, for the fire station. Think about all those local heroes that you worked with last summer. Some of them might really appreciate some homemade sparkles for the holidays, things like snowflakes, things like, I don't know, popsicle stick ornaments, fun things like that. These are the things that the teens are really good at making, and it could be fun, and you could make it a whole program. So there are other things you can do too. There are organizations that throw birthday parties for homeless kids. I used to work with an organization. It was called Birthday Wishes, and they were out of New England and out of southern New England, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island mostly. And what they did was they collected birthday supplies and homemade birthday cards, and then they threw birthday parties for homeless kids. And so one year I had the kids come and donate a whole bunch of stuff, and then we made cards and we sent the whole thing, and they were so excited because that was something they could really understand. Like, if you're homeless, having a birthday party is hard, and the kids really understood that. Yes, Wendy has discovered Pinterest. I am so sorry about my Pinterest obsession, and I'm going to foist it on you all. Pinterest is fabulous. You'll find all kinds of stuff. You can recycle books. You can recycle all kinds of fun stuff, and dig through your closets and see what kind of leftovers you have. You never know what you can find. Even maybe if you put the kids in charge of decorating the library for the holidays, or for winter, it's dark and it's cold, so everyone needs more sparkles in the winter, in my opinion. So let them loose with the glitter glue and the paper. You never know. Yeah, Wendy, I want to see pictures, Wendy, when you have them decorate, because they will have so much fun. Yeah, sparkle the library. Who knows? And like, you can do that for a couple of different holidays. Have them do it for Valentine's Day. Have them do it for St. Patrick's Day. You can do all kinds of stuff. Maybe you have them decorate the children's room. Who knows? Think about how you can really use them. And then at the end, make sure that if you're putting something on display, you have them sign like a plaque or something so people can appreciate who did it. So one of the things we've been talking a lot about is making teens more visible and making people understand that teens are a useful, wonderful members of our community. So make sure that people know that your teens put this together. Sparkle the Library brought to you by, the Teen Advisory Board or whatever. And then people can start to associate this good stuff. Sometimes these kinds of charity things will take on a life of their own. Maybe people will just keep doing it even after you finish. You never know.
And Sharon?
Yeah.
Last year, I was still pretty new at the library, but at Valentine's Day, I just cut out a bunch of hearts of different sizes, and then I kind of researched and from memory put love, like the beginnings of a love poem that I knew, or quotes from romantic movies that were pretty famous, and then I put them all over the library. That would be a fun thing to let teens do.
Yes.
Because they would have such a different slant on what they chose.
Absolutely. You could give them, and part of the beauty of these kinds of programs is you don't have to do a lot of work. So if you grab the supplies and you throw them down on the table, get a couple of poetry books, maybe have an iPad or a phone available to look things up, and then just let them go and see what kinds of stuff they come up with. I bet they'll come up with really, really exciting decorations. It's kind of amazing what happens when you let the kids take over. And I think making sure that it's something they can see or understand the impact of, I think, is important, especially for those younger, like middle schoolish kind of kids. It's going to be hard for them to understand, sending something off to somebody else versus having something local. So giving canned goods to the local food shelf or collecting stuff for the animal shelter and actually bringing it there is going to, I think, help them understand it and have a little more impact on them. And, decorating the library, they can come and show it off to their friends and family and be like, hey, look what I did. So I think it could be really fun. And it's part of to make them part of the community, which is something we all strive for. So another way that partnerships can help you is by getting donations. How many of you guys have solicited for donations from your local businesses? Has anyone ever done that? Yes.
I have.
Fabulous. Good. I was always really bad at it, I have to say, but it's definitely worth it. Okay, yeah, for your volunteer parties. Summertime, definitely. So local businesses like being part of the community. Oh yeah, Mary got prizes. That's really, really good. So, the local businesses like being part of the community. They need the advertisement, right? They need the marketing. And it can be good for them to get into the library and into the hands of kids. So I would highly recommend that when you're doing these programs and when you start to hit your budget wall, that you start thinking about some of the local businesses that can help you out. So think about the easiest ones are food donations. See if, like I used to do taste tests with the kids. And if you go to the local pizza places and tell them that you're having a taste test, they'll be like, yeah, I want to get in on that, because their name will be all over the place. And if they win, the kids will know it and they will keep coming back to their business. So they might be willing to give you a donation, or they might be willing to give you at least a deep discount, which is pretty sweet. Sometimes they'll give you gift certificates for prizes. And if you look at them, sometimes they're things like, buy a pizza, get a soda free. So it's not a huge amount of money, but it's something you can give to a kid as a prize, which is something. Some other things that could come out of some of these local businesses is there are experts out there. So just in Montpelier alone, There are jewelry makers, there are cooks, there are all kinds of people who could help you with some programs, and it's worth asking. So maybe if you're doing some sort of, I don't know, you could even ask like somebody who works in an auto shop. They can help teach a class on, car maintenance or bicycle maintenance. Or a lot of bicycle experts around here. You never know who you can find. So Paige says they got a few gift certificates for prizes for summer reading, $3 for a trip to the local coffee shop, movie tickets. Yeah, see, things like that. Think about all of those things that the kids like. Where do the kids hang out? Do they go to the coffee shops? Do they go to the movie theater? Do they go to the pizza place? Do they go to the local diner? Where, like local burrito place? Where do they go? And think about, those places, and then just ask. There is no harm in asking. And sometimes it can be fun. I tried a program that flopped on me, but I still think it's a good idea, was to bring in local people to talk about almost like a career day, to talk about their jobs. And I brought in people like park rangers and police officers, and I wanted to bring in the guy who owned the local ice cream shop. It didn't work very well, but in your towns, everyone knows each other, so it could be fun. But think about it. There are some like really cool people in your town. Paige says, we had a hard time thinking of prizes for teens doing summer reading. They did not want prizes that were available for the younger kids. Yes, absolutely. And that's one of those things. Like, you don't want to give gift certificates to the little kids because they'll be happy with a sticker. But the older kids want something a little more substantial. So if you give them something that can go get them a free ice cream cone or a slice of pizza, or popcorn at the movies or whatever, it's just going to be something exciting. And yeah, 5th and 6th graders sometimes get too cool for school. And so think about some of those like cooler prizes. Oh, Ben and Jerry's pint coupons, absolutely. So Ben and Jerry's is one of those organizations where if you live nearby, they love libraries, they love community service. So it's worth asking and ask frequently. 25 donated they got in Jericho. Froyo is where it's at. I love it. Yeah, Froyo is taken over. So yeah, ask these people. You never know. And if you have kids who are interested in entrepreneurial kind of projects, maybe they could come and talk to them. Maybe you could have some people come and visit. Yes, Froyo is frozen yogurt. I know, it's very strange. You never know. And then they can advertise, which is always important. You want to advertise, they want to advertise. So it's a win-win situation for everybody, which is fantastic. All right, here are some tips from my lots of failed endeavors. But it's not really failure. It's just the learning experience. Don't give up on schools and government departments when your first contact doesn't work. Places like the recreation department, schools, things get crazy. You never know what's going on there. Don't give up. Keep trying, and maybe try from a different angle. If the principal doesn't work, email the administrative assistant. If the English teacher doesn't work, see if there is a teaching assistant that you could try, or a literacy specialist. Get creative. Remind partners to get their own library cards and to use the library services. This is a good chance for you to do some advertising too. So if you go to the local pizza place or to the Froyo place and say, we're getting prizes for summer reading, drop off some information and say, don't forget to come to the library. Get yourself a card. You can check out movies, museum passes. Make sure you have your 30-second elevator speech about how great the library is, so that they can come and be part of the community too. Because if they feel like they're part of the library, they're going to be more likely to keep giving you stuff. Plus, they're part of your community too, and they might have kids or relatives or whoever who they could bring in, and you want to be part of all of this. So be creative, look around your community. All towns in Vermont are interesting. You never know. You might have a chicken farmer who is just fabulous, who can come and teach your kids about chickens. You never know. This week is Agricultural Literacy Week, and I've seen a lot of really cool programs happening. So you never know what the kids might be interested in. Keep an eye on the news and social media. Sometimes opportunities make themselves available. My go-to example of that is when the Newtown shootings happened. Before the schools reopened, they had a huge campaign across the country to make snowflakes to decorate the school so that when the kids went back to the school, they could have little like like a presence from all over the country. And so a lot of us had last minute programs where our kids would come, or families as we did it, come and make fabulous snowflakes, and then we shipped off 1,000 snowflakes to Newtown. So it's my job to try to keep you abreast of all this stuff, but keep an eye out, if there is, a hurricane, or if there is something that's hitting your community, or maybe something internationally that's hitting your community in a unique way. Maybe it's time to talk to the kids about taking up a collection. Maybe it's, collecting blankets, or maybe it's collecting, I don't know, toothbrushes, who knows? But keep your eye out and listen to the kids when they talk about the things that they're worried about, because sometimes that can help. You guys are worried about, an earthquake across the country, or the refugees in Syria. What can we do to help? What can we do to make you feel a little bit better, a little less useless? Because we all feel useless. So maybe it can make everyone feel better. And that, you might even have a group that's interested in something bigger, like Amnesty International or something like that. You never know. Kids are full of it. They are all over the ideas. And ask. You never know who might donate something or give you a huge, deep discount. I used to work with a Papa Gino's. I was in a big city, and Papa Gino's gave us like a 40% discount on everything and free soda, and they delivered it right to our door. So you never know. Even those big corporate chains sometimes will give you big discounts, and it's worth asking. Definitely ask. And if you're a 501c3, remember that you don't have to pay tax. And if you just bring you should have a form that says that you are a nonprofit, I can't remember, tax exempt status. They'll make a copy of it, and then you don't have to pay sales tax, which can save you a few pennies. All right, ideas, questions, comments? Okay, so let's talk about this week's assignment. This week's assignment is going to be, I think, pretty simple for most of you guys. I want you to think about collaboration. I want you to think about one new initiative, no cheating. I want you to think about something new with another organization. It could be a government department, it could be a school, it could be a community group, it could be a business, doesn't matter. Pick something, pick an organization that you think a new relationship would benefit you, something that you haven't been able to do or haven't had time to do, or maybe haven't been able to convince people is worth it, and go for it. So think about the goal of this. Are you going to do some sort of collection? Are you going to do a display? Are you going to be asking for money? Are you going to be asking for donations? What are you going to be doing with them? And then you want to make sure that you can pitch it to the people who pay the bills in your library. So the trustees, the director, whoever. How do you justify the time and energy spent on this partnership? It shouldn't be too hard. Usually it's, community connections are great. Town connections are important. We want more people invested in the library. But think about it. Just make sure you write it down. And then think about the logistics, budget, marketing, and make sure that you are thinking about what that organization is going to get out of it, so that when you pitch it to them, are you going to be offering them marketing? Are you going to be offering them more business? Are you going to be offering them a chance to be bigger part of the community? Are they a new organization that really needs to get their feet wet in the community, because the library is a good way to get it? Warm cockles, I love that, Wendy. It's so true. Everyone loves the library. One of our biggest assets is the fact that everyone loves the library. and there is nothing bad about the library. So it's true that organizing like a partnership with the library, there's no bad there. So you just got to make them do it. So I really want you to think about this. This doesn't have to be a full-blown program. It could be if you want it to be. It could be some sort of display. It could be some sort of community service project. It could be just an outreach with the schools, and maybe you're going to present them with something, but come up with something tangible. Like you're going to go to the school with a book list, or you're going to go to the school with an offer to teach the kids how to do research, or you're going to go to the literacy coordinators and talk about summer reading, or you're going to go to the pizza place and talk about the awesome pizza taste test that you're going to do, and how they're going to win, or maybe you're going to go to the ice cream shop and you're going to talk to them about partnering for summer reading and getting some prizes. Or maybe you're going to go to the teen center and talk about maybe doing a kickoff event at the library. Or maybe you're going to talk about maybe doing some cross advertising. So this doesn't have to be huge, but I really want you to think about how you could benefit with a collaboration with someone in town. Be creative and really think about it, and try to stretch yourself a little bit. It can be hard. Like I said, I have not always been really good at this. But I think in Vermont especially, we have so many opportunities to make these kind of relationships work, and they're so important because all these people are library users, and they're related to people who are library users, and they're all part of this big family. So it's important to partner. Does anyone have any questions about any of that? Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.